Germany's Chancellor is promising action following Saturday's deadly car attack at Berlin's Pride celebrations. Chancellor Friedrich Merz has added his voice to mounting criticism of a judiciary system that allowed the man suspected of driving a van into the crowd to go free despite multiple convictions. Now, the suspect, named as Abdul B, was killed in a confrontation with police on Sunday. His most recent guilty verdict was in May for an offense called preparing a serious act of violence endangering the state.
2 days after the deadly attack on Berlin's Pride Parade, Germany is trying to process what happened. For many, the question is not just why someone would commit such a hateful act, but much more how Germany's criminal justice system could allow a known offender to commit this crime. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz acknowledged that political consequences are called for.
Above all, we must answer the question of how it is actually possible that a man classified in this way was able to go unchallenged to the vicinity of the parade here in Berlin on Saturday evening and carry out this attack there. The target of this attack was not chosen at random, nor was it an attack directed solely at the queer community. It was an attack on our freedom. It was an attack on our free society. It was an attack on our freedom and on our liberal values.
21-year-old Abdul B, the suspect in the Pride attack, was shot dead Sunday by police after a large-scale manhunt tracked him to this community garden. But it wasn't his first time in the authorities' sights. He was convicted twice as a juvenile for assault, extortion, and robbery, before his most recent conviction for planning a violent act after trying to join the so-called Islamic State. That's triggered criticism of law enforcement and sparked calls to punish some juvenile offenses more severely.
We have a potential perpetrator who is extremely dangerous. Everyone who's in a position to assess the situation says so. And then he carries out this attack again. That is why we must really now take a close look at the structures and examine where things went wrong.
Members of Berlin's LGBTQ+ community say the attack didn't just target them, but also Germany's liberal democracy.
We live in a city that has become dangerous, where people are free to walk around, allowed to challenge our liberal democracy. And they do so with violence. And on top of that, it's all out in the open. Yeah, it's unbelievable. We're being attacked in a way by people who simply don't want us to live the way we do. But that's not acceptable. We still live in a democracy, after all.
A democracy, he feels, is not protecting him.
Attacks on minorities and LGBTQ+ people are on the rise, and we're just standing by and watching. And we don't stand a chance. I'm a human being. For the first time in this country, I'm afraid. I've never felt this way before.
As tributes are left for the victims, many who took part in the Pride Parade are hoping this one act of hate won't dampen the love that Christopher Street Day celebrates.
Well, Saturday night's attack near Berlin's Pride celebrations was allegedly carried out by a man already known to the authorities. He had expressed support for Islamic State, tried to reach Syria, and been convicted of preparing a serious act of violence. Now Germany is asking whether this attack could have been prevented. Well, joining me now is Guido Steinberg. He's one of Germany's leading experts on Islamist terrorism. He has advised the German government, and he has served for 2 decades as an expert witness in German terrorism trials. Guido, it's good to have you back on the program. Let me ask you about other countries for a moment. France and Britain, they impose strict controls on known Islamist extremists. That includes electronic monitoring, movement restrictions, limits on contacts. Would measures like these, would they have made a difference in Berlin Saturday night?
Yes, I believe they would have. The hardest thing about such a terrorist attack is to find out, or is to find the person who might be plotting such an attack. This usually doesn't happen in Germany. It happens in Washington, D.C. It's done by the NSA, by the CIA, and the FBI. But in this case, the Germans had all the information. They knew that this person had gone to Mauritania and to Lebanon in order to join ISIS in Mali and possibly in Syria. So there is no excuse for our authorities not having stopped him. And you mentioned France, you mentioned Britain. Well, they are the grown-ups in security policies in Europe. And the problem is, I believe, that Islamist terrorism in the past had hotspots in Europe, in Paris, in France, in Britain, in Belgium, not in Germany. Now the situation has changed. We have a tremendous amount of attacks and attack plots in Germany and in Austria, and our security authorities are not prepared, especially here in Berlin, in the capital.
Well, Guido, I mean, the suspect was already known to police and intelligence services. How did he remain free and able to carry out an attack? I mean, they knew this was a possibly very dangerous person.
Yeah, well, I don't blame the justice system, at least not as much as is being done today by other experts, simply because German laws are relatively mild, and the suspect had already spent some time in a Lebanese jail because he had tried to join ISIS somewhere. So he wouldn't have gone. Even if he had entered jail right now with the conviction that he had, he wouldn't have remained there for a long time. The problem that I see is that, according to my experience from trials in recent years, that all these young boys in Canada, in Germany, in Austria, in France, who tried to join ISIS somewhere in the Middle East or in Africa, and who were sent back or who didn't even have the chance to leave the country, then started plotting attacks. So the Berlin police knew everything it had to know. Plus, we know for a certain number of years now that LGBTQ plus events are a major target here in Europe. We had attacks in Germany. We had an attack plot on the Pride Parade in Vienna. So there is no excuse. The police, the intelligence services should have kept an eye on this person, notwithstanding the fact that, well, the justice system could have thrown him into jail for a number of months.
Well, let's assume that the authorities wanted to keep an eye on 24 hours a day. Do they have the manpower? Do they have the capacity to do that? Because you and I have talked about this before. The number of people who could possibly be considered dangerous, that's a big number in Germany.
Yeah, it's a big number. More than 500 jihadists, plus other organizations, Hezbollah, Hamas, right-wing terrorism, left-wing terrorism. And here in Berlin, well, the authorities the police have about enough manpower for a 24-hour observation for 1, 2, or 3 persons, not more.
Wow.
But there are other measures that can be taken. You can order a suspect to report to the police, if need be, 3 times a day.
Well, he was, though, right? He was. We understand he was ordered to do de-radicalization courses. And
well, not with the police, not with the police, Brent. This is, this is with an NGO. I'm talking about security measures, not about de-radicalization, which I believe in his case was useless anyhow. But he could have been forced to appear at a police station 3 times a day, and as soon as he doesn't appear, an alarm bell would ring all over Berlin. Yeah. There are different measures, but I think with your introductory remarks, you are right. We need far more intrusive measures simply because of the fact that our security authorities are overwhelmed by the sheer number of suspects.
The suspect had reportedly claimed that he had abandoned extremist ideology. You've been in many courtrooms. How can courts tell whether an Islamist has genuinely changed or simply learned to say what the court wants to hear?
Well, courts usually do have their experiences. Probably not this court. I've been to many trials here in Berlin, but never to such an important trial at such a low-level court. I don't understand why these proceedings happened at what we call an Amtsgericht, which is an ordinary local court. All the other, we call them senates, panels of judges, have experiences. They wouldn't have trusted this guy. They would have asked the police officials who had experience with him. And according to what I see, even from the paper form, I could have told you that this is a dangerous personality. Wow. Every expert could have told the judge, every policeman. Obviously, there was somebody with no prior experience.
So that's what I was going to add. I want to be clear on that. So you're saying that we've got a case here of a court that is just not up to speed to deal with the type of people that are coming before it.
Not of this magnitude. The very fact that somebody, as I said before, the very fact that somebody made an effort to travel to ISIS territory via first Turkey, then Mauritania, then Lebanon, should have warned a court. And other courts who have prior experience with jihadist terrorists would have never believed such a guy that he, in fact, has abandoned ISIS ideology.
Okay. Guido Steinberg, as always, Guido, good to have you on. Good to get your insights on this story. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Brent. Thanks.